Hello and welcome to Bell Peppers and Beef, episode 25. I'm Paul.
Dave.
Justin.
Alright, in this episode we are talking about the Cowboy Bebop movie, also known as Knockin' on Heaven's Door.
Sure.
Quick plot synopsis. The year is 2071. Following a terrorist bombing, a deadly virus is released on the populace of Mars, and the government has issued a 300 million Wulong reward, the largest bounty in history for the capture of whoever is behind it. The bounty-hunted crew of the spaceship Bebop, Spike, Faye, Jet, and Edward, take the case with hopes of cashing in on the bounty. However, the mystery surrounding the man responsible, Vincent, goes far deeper than they ever imagined, and they aren't the only ones hunting him. The original creators of the virus have dispatched Elektra to deal with Vincent and take out anyone who may stumble on the truth behind him. As hunt for the man with no past and no future continues to escalate, they begin to question what about the world is reality and what is a dream, as the line between sanity and insanity becomes more apparent. Alright, let's talk about the Cowboy Bebop movie.
I really like the opening sequence where there's a few robbers just trying to rob a convenience store.
Yes, okay. So I actually made...
great fight scene.
That's the first note I have, is that scene is really, really good.
Oh, yeah. It's
definitely.
Excellent. It's a great way to open up the whole show, or just movie in general.
Okay. I have to ask a question. So, the movie came out a couple years after the series.
Yeah.
Like 3 or something. So... had you watched the series when the movie came out, or did you see it after?
I think I saw it afterwards, after I've already seen the series. It's basically its own side plot for the most part, and it doesn't matter if you watch it before or after.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to try rephrasing it. Were you a fan of Cowboy Bebop when you... Okay, so did you see the movie first, or did you watch the series first?
Series.
Series? Okay. Alrighty. So... you know what? I'm going to let you two just gush about this movie because I can tell you both really like it, and then I'll give my opinion on it. So why don't you guys go through what you like about the movie, and then I'll give my opinion on it a little later.
Okay, so after the fancy convenience store battle, or robbery, which failed for the robbers, obviously, because Spike was being a badass. And we get the opening credits where it's nicely animated to the music.
Okay, so I'm gonna just cut in. So with the movie, do you think the movie is a fitting? It's not really a continuation, but is it? If you okay, let's say that this movie had never been made.
Okay.
And you had just seen the series, and they announced they were going to make a Cowboy Bebop movie, and they released this movie as it is, would you be satisfied with it?
Yeah, on the whole with it.
I'd be satisfied. I mean, with how the series ended, you can't really imagine Spike being alive after that or anything like that, but you kind of understand, like, oh, well, it's kind of set as if they were all still part of the Bebop, which is perfectly fine. You want to see more of these characters interacting.
Just another story that the Cowboy Bebop crew has gone through.
Basically, that's generally what people would want to see in general.
Okay. So, do you guys have like a favorite moment in the movie, or like a favorite scene?
I think one of the particular scenes that stands out in my mind is Faye's interaction with the hacker that's assisting the main baddie of the movie, where he's in the arcade just relaxing, playing through some arcade games until Faye cuts in and tries to pick up the bounty for herself.
Yeah, she shoots the arcade screen.
Yeah, sadly not the proper gun to shoot it with there, Faye. But then, of course, it makes the gentleman mad, and the last thing you ever want to do is to get a hacker mad inside of an arcade, because he can mess around with a whole bunch of things.
Supposedly.
Okay. So, we haven't really talked a lot about the plot of this movie, because the plot of the movie is kind of insignificant.
More or less. I mean, it does build up to a climactic battle with Spike and Vincent by the end,
Okay.
which is perfectly fine.
Man.
And that's my entire review of this movie, is it is perfectly fine.
Yay!
Okay, cool.
But it's not good.
Okay.
Yeah, understandable.
So, I need to understand why... Okay. So, why do you like this movie as, like, just like it's a standalone episode
Yes.
of
Pretty
the
much.
series?
Pretty much, well, two-part episode with how long the movie is and with how much time it would supposedly
2 or
fit in.
3 part.
And I guess it's kind of one of the particular notes that you would probably say about certain episodes of Bebop, that with the amount of time, if it was given more, it could make a better story out of it or expand it into something better than it was. And with the story that they decided to go with for the movie they went, it definitely filled in the time with everything well and explained the story, had good progression through everything from what I saw of everything, and ended it on the best note it could end it on.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't necessarily have a problem with anything that happens in the movie. It's a perfectly fine story. It's well animated. There's nothing wrong with it.
You're just thinking it could supposedly be so much better with some of the episodes you've seen?
Yes. So my problem is you've had the series, and we know how the series ends. So obviously you can't do a movie that takes place after that.
That would be a little weird.
Exactly. My problem is doing the movie and placing it where they do in the timeline, there's no stakes.
Yeah.
Because we know none of these characters can die because they have to appear in the next episode.
Is that your main problem?
Yes, that there is no stakes in this series, or in this movie.
Well, stakes aside from the typical stakes of there's the risk that a lot of people are gonna die. Not so much the Cowboy Bebop crew, but
Yeah, okay.
lots of people.
But if that happened, why wasn't it brought up in the series? Because if there was that large of a terrorist attack, you think people would be talking about it.
I mean, potentially. But I mean, this is really meant as like a very standalone from the series. So
I also think that with particular stuff like that, they're not super concerned with keeping continuity with just about everything. If you just jumped into this movie without watching anything Cowboy Bebop-wise and then jumped into the rest of the series, this particular thing, if you weren't so concerned with continuity, wouldn't throw every sort of aspect within your mind in complete disarray.
Yeah, basically.
No, I agree. If you like this movie, you're probably going to like the series.
Yeah.
For sure.
Here's how I wished... Okay. Let me rephrase that.
Hmm.
If I was given the responsibility of writing the Cowboy Bebop movie, I wouldn't have said it in this point in the timeline.
You would have done something more in the past sense of when Spike was actually part of the Mafia to explain the story of how
Yes.
everything sort of happened.
I would have done a team-up movie with him and Vicious, leading to their falling out. And then you can also tell a story...
Spike and Jet met up or something.
Yeah, that's how you end the movie, is with them meeting.
Yeah.
And you can also give Jet stuff to do in that because we know he lost his arm and he was a cop. You've got stuff to play with there. You can have Jet be the part of the reason that Spike and Vicious had their falling out for whatever reason. Maybe Jet was pursuing them. You've got stuff to play with there.
True.
Now, granted, that means you can't bring in Edward or Faye.
Which it makes you happy.
Which in one of those cases, I'm sure you're decently happy about that.
Yes, I am. Because I dislike Edward, because I think Edward is a terrible character.
Yeah.
Even though Edward doesn't annoy me that much in this movie. I'll grant that. Edward primarily, for me, was at her worst in episode 9.
Her introduction.
Yes. When the episode was entirely focused on her. I don't mind Edward if it's 30 seconds here or there. I can handle that. It's when you dedicate 25 minutes to that character that it scrambles my brains.
Nah.
Okay.
Okay. So, what else did you guys like about the movie? Or what else do you want to talk about the movie?
Well, mostly just the typical joke of this taking place during Halloween and it being attacked during a Halloween presentation and Vincent disguising himself as a witch.
Okay. Justin, what about this movie did you want to talk about?
I love the old men.
Oh, yeah, they come
Ones
back
that
in
want to
this.
fly the old
course.
airplanes.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, they still flies. Like one like blows up in the back. There's great moments like that, like here and there, and
So I will also admit the movie has a collection of great moments.
it's a collection of amazing moments. I mean, of course, you'll have your comedic moments, you'll have your action moments, like on the train, and you'll have
Yes.
the flying action scenes and the
The-
fighting action.
The entire tram scene that they do is really well done.
Oh yeah, for
That's
sure.
really good. I also really love the animation when Faye gets poisoned
Yes.
and it goes all blurry and weird. That's really
Yeah.
cool as well.
Definitely.
Like they did quite a good job with setting that tone for the scenes that it needed to.
Yes. The show and the movie as a whole are very well animated.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I can point to technically in the series that I dislike. I dislike some of the storytelling elements, but that's been well documented already.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming out of the movie and the series, I have one last question for both of you.
Okay.
Alright.
Who's your favorite member of the Bebop?
As it kind of sits, it's kind of on several different scales. For the most part, I'll just sort of split it to two, where favorite-wise, with all the characters, it sits mostly with Jet on top, Spike, Ein, Ed, and Faye down on the bottom. Where the second list is a bit more the characters sort of relating to my personality or who I sort of best relate with their reactions in the series, where Jet is still top on list. If I ended up as one of the characters on a Bebop or in the ship, that sort of case, I'd most likely be Jet trying to keep this crazy roundabout crew of people together and on the rails somewhat. With either, it bounces between Ed and Faye for the second position mostly, just with the certain things that their stories run through. Ein, honestly, is kind of a bit weird, but I cannot be a Spike. I am not that smooth.
Alrighty, Justin?
Does it have to only be like of the main characters?
Yes, out of the Bebop crew.
Okay, of the Bebop crew. My top picks would probably be obviously Jet. Jet's always the top dog in the whole Bebop, I would say.
Okay.
And then it would probably go in the order of Spike, Faye, Ed, and Ein.
Okay.
Ein is the dog. I'm not fond of dogs too terribly much.
Okay, so we actually are fairly close, except I flipped my top two.
Okay.
I put
You just put Spike.
Spike above Jet.
Okay.
I mean, that's a fairly close race
No,
there, but
No, it's understandable.
Yeah.
but yeah, for me, Ed is at the very bottom.
That's not surprising for us. We've known that since the first intro of Ed.
So, who's better, Faye or Ein?
I mean, I can't give it to Ein if for no other reason than it's a dog.
Okay.
And Faye at least has a backstory that's interesting.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
See, for me, after Faye, there's a pretty big drop-off there.
Okay.
Because Ein, what are you going to do with the dog? You can't really tell much of a story with just the dog.
He's the data dog.
Hmm.
And Edward, I just find Edward annoying.
Yeah.
So, do either of you have anything left to add about the Cowboy Bebop movie?
For what it is, it's definitely good, and it's definitely decent enough as a jumping off point to sort of get yourself into the series, I'd say. So whether starting with that or starting with the series, any of those is definitely a good pick.
Honestly, I would still watch it again, just to get like a quick Cowboy Bebop fix if I don't feel like watching through like just a bunch of random episodes in the series. If I want to watch the movie, I'll watch the movie. It's basically, it gives me another option of choice, and I actually find that the movie does it quite well.
Okay. So, again, I wish that the movie was different than it is. As it stands, if you cut this into a 25-minute episode, it would be a perfectly good episode of the series. I wish they would have done something more interesting with the story, but that's just me, because I'm usually not a fan of a lot of the standalone episodes of the series. So, do either of you have a ranking out of 10?
I'd give it a solid 8.5.
8.5 from Justin.
I think as it sits, I'll stick it around 8-ish or so. But on the whole, it's good for what it does, for showing the story of Cowboy Bebop in movie sort of sense.
Yeah, I agree. I would give it a 7. Like I said, I'm not necessarily a fan of the story they're telling, but they tell it very well, and it is very, very nicely animated.
And they do give some backstory to some of the characters. Like, they give hints at Spike's backstory a little bit, in case you haven't watched the series at all. So I'm assuming this is more for people who haven't seen the whole series or something like that.
Yeah, to me, it clearly is meant to serve as an entry point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do any of you have any questions for me, or anything you want to add?
Moving forward, whether or not it's going to be exploring other animes or other sort of particular sort of media, is there any sort of particular point within Cowboy Bebop that has sort of assisted with where your search for what you would be looking for in anime would want to go? Or is it still kind of set at, okay, this is cool, but I kind of prefer my own thing?
So, I wouldn't say that Cowboy Bebop would directly influence that. Now, that being said, a series I'm watching right now is Terror in Resonance, which is by the same director. And I love Terror in Resonance. And I think part of that is because it's 11 episodes. And there's no time to tell excess stories. You have to just tell your main story and get out. There are a few other animes that I'm going to be watching. Psycho Pass and Death Parade are both on my list right now, as well as Attack on Titan.
Okay.
I don't think... And actually, I really like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as well. Although I haven't watched past 2 episodes.
That's fine.
I don't think Cowboy Bebop would directly influence what I would watch next, though.
Yeah, because as it says, anime is not a genre. It's basically... It's a category of animated TV shows.
It's its own medium.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which you'll find horror genre, action, comedy, whatever.
Yes, and a lot of Dragon Ball Z clones.
Yeah, that's kind of its own thing entirely.
Or
too.
Pokemon clones.
Yeah,
I hate it all.
true.
I hate it all. I do have to check out Trigun at some point. I actually do want to watch that.
Definitely true.
At least it's short.
Yeah, it's only like 26 episodes or something, isn't it?
Like 11 or 12 or something like that, I thought.
No, I
Isn't
think
it?
as it is, it goes through a full series around
it?
26.
It's like, it's at least 4 or 5 discs long.
Okay.
So I think that's
I
going
don't
to be
remember.
about it for episode 25 of Bell Peppers and Beef. I'm Paul.
I'm David.
Justin.